Welcome. Good evening. I'm beyond thrilled to have this play talk. Tonight, I have a very special guest. This person is a person that I found probably 2 years ago on Instagram. And ever since I found this gem, I started to fall in love. Literally, right at the very first moment that I watched her content, I fell in love, and all of a sudden, she started growing on Instagram. And not only on Instagram, I found her in different play events with Sally Hoey and Kirsten Peterson. And this person is a person that I admire a lot. All my play talks have people that I invite, not only because of who they are as a person, but who they are as as a main cause. The whole activity that they're performing really works towards rethinking education and towards a developmentally appropriate approach to education. So welcome, Suzanne Cotton. Let me add you to the stage. Welcome. I'm beyond thrilled to have you on board. Suzanne is a mother of three, right? You're a
Right.
mom of three because that's her main job. And raising three children is not easy. I can attest to that. So she's a mom of three. She lives in Brooklyn, New York, and she has an amazing project going on in her. It's the first floor of your house, right?
Yeah, it's the ground level
The
apartment that we're
ground level of your house, your
yeah.
townhome in Brooklyn. So welcome, Suzanne. Can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be with you. So I'm Suzanne Cotton. I have this little place called Mulberry House Play School. It is excuse me, kind of a magical place for me. It's been a dream. We bought the home, I think, goodness, maybe 13 years ago, something like that. And that was kind of always a dream to have this place. And it finally became a reality during the pandemic, believe it or not. So yeah, this is a school for 2 to 4 year olds. We only have 12 children daily. It's a very small operation, only 15 families. Um, but that's intentional. And that is, I don't think about growing at all right now because with that number, it's all very manageable for me. I can really get to know my children and my families very, very well. I took some time to study in Reggio Emilia, and we are a Reggio Emilia inspired play school. So one of my biggest takeaways from that experience was this idea of connection and community, and how, that's not even something we really understand in America. That word goes so much deeper than we understand it to be. And so that was my focus. I thought more than anything now, opening during a pandemic, that's what these families need. That's what these children need. That's what I would want for my own children. And especially in a place like New York City, where we are just racing around
Mhm.
nonstop and always thinking about, how do I get my child ahead? What's the next step? How do they get into that Ivy League school at 3 years old, right? All of that kind of stuff. I really fell in love with the Reggio approach because it focuses on the group. The individual, of course, is important, but it really focuses on how children connect in a group, how they respond to the group, how the group responds to them. In fact, in Reggio Emilia, they don't even assess children on an individual level. They assess them on those things, how they respond to the group. And so this was very important to me. And I just wanted to build a place where this was valued and honored, and where play was honored and valued, and the rights of children to play and to be children. I really don't believe that we are preparing children for kindergarten or for pre-K. We are preparing them just by letting them be 2 and 3 and 4, right? They have to fully be 3 before they can fully be 4. So that's our goal, just letting them have their childhood and their play. And, it's a lot more complex than that too. There's a lot that goes into the play, like you'll see tonight. I brought a lot of fun materials to share with you and lots of ideas and some photos to share, because I just think it's important to nurture the play, to understand what's behind the play, the how and the why of the play, and to go from there and focus on connection. I think this young age is all about relational learning. So that's our goal here at Mulberry House.
I didn't know the story behind the Mulberry House Play School because I didn't know that you opened during pandemic. I thought that you had it for your own children.
Yeah, no, well, I kind of did. My children are very young. I originally expected, my children would be in grade school and quite a bit older when I would open. And, I found myself at home with three little babies. When I brought home my third, I had a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. So they're all very little. They're very close in age. Um, and when my littlest was 9 months old, I said to my husband, I said, I need to go somewhere. I need to go to Reggio Emilia. So will you just take care of the children for a bit? I'll be back. And so I went for a week or two and came back refreshed and energized and thought, you know what, this is the time I want to focus on this. And then the school was ready. It was sitting empty, fully staffed, fully enrolled, ready. I was waiting for the license, and then the pandemic hit. And so then I lost all of the children and I restaffed. And so then at that time it was for my children because that became their school, which, was incredible in hindsight. Right? So I had my little ones down here. Yeah. And then we opened officially in October 2020.
Wow. So probably you don't know my story, but my story is very similar because I renovated my garage, which is called the Learning Garage, in 2020.
Okay.
And this project was for my daughter, but I had the plans prior to the pandemic, and the pandemic hit. So I became the most popular in-person program. I only had 8 children when I started the program. And this project is for my children. And I also have a 3 and a 2-year-old. So I don't know, it's like talking to see like how we relate in the same kind of projects. So yes, this project was born for Elena, who's now 9. We started when she was 5 because she was going to start kindergarten, and I just wanted her to play and to own her childhood and make her value that precious moment in life. And that's how it all started. And I started rethinking my practices. I started rethinking, knowing, because kindergarten is not as hard to have around play, but I was envisioning elementary, and that's where I am right now. So we learn through playful learning in elementary years, and I have a multi-age group. And now I'm struggling because he did just turn 4 last week. And I've had to unlearn my whole idea of education because I'm keeping him home. So I'm homeschooling both. Well, it's not homeschool, it's like play school, but both Alberto and Max. Max is also 2.5. And I do that in the afternoon. So I do Elena in the morning, and twice a week in the afternoon, I do the boys. And I'm looking forward to opening a school very soon. So we didn't know that our paths were so similar. So I'm shocked, and I believe that what you do comes from passion. So does the same purpose that I have, and that's the true value that it's added to education nowadays. Especially because I think that when we started these projects, the pandemic was so hard on people, and people were able to see what was going on in the school system, how much pressure they had, how much was going on in those classrooms that was not necessarily needed, and how valuable play was. So I think that we are marked by a moment in life that is no coincidence, and that is giving birth to a new way of educating young children. So I'm very flattered to hear your story. Suzanne, so we're here to talk about light because if you have not visited, I'm going to share your Instagram in a second here because this platform is very cool, but I cannot multitask. So once you start speaking, I'll share all the things that I want to share. So when you visit Suzanne's Instagram, and that's how you capture my attention, because honestly, I don't remember how I crossed paths with you because it was prior to all these events that you've done. And I found you and I was like, this is amazing. This is wonderful. Those pictures were captivating me. Like all these fresh ideas, the simplicity behind that play, which is something that I look into, and it's one of the hardest things to find simplicity in play. Believe it or not, I think it's one of the hardest things to achieve. And when I saw your Instagram, it was like life changing. It was like another world, and how resourceful you are, and how creative and how intentional. And I started seeing light. And for all of you watching, if you have not never played with light, maybe you can actually comment in the chat if you've played with light or not, or what are you looking into? Because before playing with light, I've never been to Reggio, and I hope that I make it at some point. But before playing with light, um, I first found light through, I don't know if you know her, Louisa Penfold.
Hmm.
She's amazing. She works at Harvard School of Education, and she teaches educators about art. And she has a beautiful course in light. It's very simple, and that's how I first started learning about light. Then I met my very good friend Paola from Kinderu Okala. I don't know if you know her project. Her project is also amazing, and I was like, how do I do this? Like, and then I found you. I'm like, I need to learn how to do it, and I feel like this is, at least for me, it has been a struggle because I didn't know how to start, how to play with the light. Because as adults, I think it's harder for them. It's easy for children. It's a lot easier than it is for us. But playing with these textures, playing with all these materials. So I wanted to first start by by telling us, how did you start? How can we start, and what do you recommend? Because I've started little by little, but I'm far from being like an expert in light. So can you start sharing that?
Yeah. So, I mean, it all started with my son's play. It was really play. So we were reading a book. Do you know the old book called Abi Yo-Yo by Pete Seeger? So that's a favorite book in our house, and a lot of that book is sung, right? And we were singing it, and I had my son had retained this line from the book where it says, "And the sun rose blood red over the hill," right? They were talking about this beautiful sun coming up, and all the terror and tragedy about to happen when the giant comes into the village. And he found this red, I don't even know what it was, to be honest, a piece of cellophane or something, some red plastic in the school, when this was long before Mulberry had opened. But and he took it and he held it up in front of a lamp. And we weren't even talking about Abioyo at that moment, but just in his play, just organically, he said, "And the sun rose blood red over the hill," and he put it up in front of the lamp. And I thought, oh, that's new. What an interesting thing. What can we do with that? So we built our first puppet theater, and just out of an old box, and he painted it, and we put, vellum on the front to make a screen. And I think I remember printing out the Abiyoyo characters and just printing them out on regular paper and then tracing them onto like black cardstock and then cutting them out and putting them on a stick. It was very simple, very basic, but it was the giant and Abiyoyo and the father. And so that's what we used as our first puppets. And he, he was also very into music at the time, and still is, and had my ukulele. And he wanted to be the part of the ukulele because the boy plays this ukulele throughout the book. And so he's playing this ukulele and he's singing this song. And then we incorporate the lamps and the lights and the blood red sun rising over the hill. And it was just amazing because it was a different way of retelling the story, of engaging my child in a very different way. And it kind of caught on for me. And I thought, okay, what else can I do? And this was before I went to Reggio Emilia. And then, when I was in Reggio Emilia, I saw the light tables, right? And I'd seen those before, but hadn't had one myself. And I was like, what do we really do with this? It's just for kind of looking at stuff. I didn't really get it. And it was honestly very kind of anticlimactic, because I would look at a material and be like, and now what? Like, what do I do with it? Like, so that it wasn't, excuse me, getting over a cold here. It wasn't just, love at first sight, like, oh, this is so natural. It wasn't natural for me. Like you said, it's often more natural for the children. Mm-hmm. For me, I thought I had to do something. I was really like, well, what's next? What do I need to do? So I think what I ended up discovering over the course of the last several years was that light play is just like any other play. And at Mulberry House, we have very young children. We have 2, 3, and 4-year-olds. So our play is really focused on schematic play. Mm-hmm. And the play schemas, meaning things like connecting, positioning, trajectory play, which might be, you can see a tube behind me here, might be like shooting things through a tube or down a ramp. What else is there? Enclosure play, putting things inside of other objects, enveloping play. So all of these schemas, I noticed, oh, there's a lot of truth to that. That's really organic and really natural for young children. This is how they play. And so when I thought about materials and how I would source materials for the school, and this is for the main classroom here where I'm sitting now, and also in our atelier, which is where a lot of our light play happens, I thought about those play schemas and how those materials, it's kind of essential that you look at a material within that, through that lens of the play schemas. So if a child is interested in enclosure, you're going to find a lot of little containers, right? And things to put in those containers. And if they're interested in, transporting, you might have baskets, or you might have things where they can move them around, or things on wheels, or carts and things. So I just started with that, like lots of clear acrylic materials, lots of things to explore color, like acrylic napkin rings, and then also a lot of recycled goods. Like I was inspired from being in Reggio Emilia by their use of recycled plastics and how they're just everywhere. So things like produce bags, right, that we just keep on a shelf, and the children use them, and they use them in their positioning play and their connecting play. And also some of them are still bags, right? So they use them for enclosure play and transporting. They fill them up with different materials and move them around and try to sell them to their friends, that sort of thing. So that's kind of where I started, and it kind of has grown to a very large closet. I have, I think oftentimes when we think Reggio Emilia, we think only natural materials. And that's a very big part of, that approach. But also using what you have and using found materials and recycled goods and things from, we were talking earlier about this place called the Materials Center in New York City. It's a place by Teaching Beyond the Square. And it's very similar to Remida, which is the recycling center in Reggio Emilia, where you can go in and you can get things like produce bags or like, tile like this, which is very interesting and new. And these things are not things that children typically have access to at home. So when they come here, there's a new perspective that they're gaining. So that's kind of where I started.
And I also want to interrupt you for a second. If we have parents watching here, I have a freebie on play schemas and what they are. I have it in both languages, English and Spanish. So you can message me and I'll send it your way, because all my courses are also developed around, especially, of course, in the first 6 years of life. That's when we see them the most, are developed through schematic play, because that's how we keep children engaged. And also all the work that I've done for parents and how to promote play at home goes around play schemas, because if you identify play schemas, you'll find the joy in play, and that child will never stop playing. So it's about finding the right materials, finding the interests in that specific child, and discovering how to promote high level play within the context.
Yeah, and that's really what it is for us too. Either, whether it's in the main classroom or in the atelier or outdoors, when we know our children well and we know what they're interested in, and we see these patterns in their play and how they're drawn to certain materials and certain patterns in play, and how they interact with not only the materials but also with their peers and the materials, and how they form these relationships, that's really, it just runs the show, right? Because the classroom, you've probably heard that in Reggio Emilia, the classroom functions as the third teacher, meaning the classroom really plays a role in teaching the children based on, the way it's set up, the materials that are available, the materials that are really accessible to the children, and how they kind of rotate through based on children's interests. So that's the same goes for light. We have, in our atelier, we have storage on the wall where children are free to go and pull out drawers and take things out. There's also provocations often set on the light table or on the floor with other, lights that may not be light table related. We use lights all over. So you'll notice even in the classroom, you see the twinkle tree behind me and the lamp, and there's overhead lighting. One of my biggest takeaways also from Reggio was this idea, and this is kind of deeper in the reading. You can find this this idea of creating an environment of softness. And a lot of that has to do with lighting, and they encourage all different types of lights. So, fluorescent even, which I actually don't have, but incandescent, projectors. We have the light table, a light panel on the wall in our atelier, which I can show you in a second if you'd like to see photos. We have these lamps all over the place, which are IKEA desk lamps. They're like $20 IKEA desk lamps. Yeah, and they bend, and the bulb does not come out. It does not get hot. They're really manageable for the children. They move them around the classroom. They, look at things. In fact, this was what started our light play. This was what my child held that piece of red plastic to when he was singing the Abiyoyo song. So having light not just in one designated area, but thinking about how it is in relationship with the entire space and the children and the materials is really important. So it's not just a light table. It's how does light infuse the whole environment, and how can you bring it in different ways? Like today, for example, I'll show you a picture in a minute. We had this light, which was a light I used when I was nursing my baby in her nursery, many years ago. And it was covered in Play-Doh with little translucent pieces sticking out around it. That's what a child chose to do with that. And we've never incorporated Play-Doh and light except for at the light table, but this was something new that we tried. And this is called a Vava lamp, if anyone's interested.
And they were inspired by the children. It wasn't an activity that came from them, and that's where we get also great ideas, because it's about offering intentional materials. I also want to add to what you're saying, that we don't need to have a huge space to play with light, because sometimes we think that we need to have a huge light table and all these things, and light play can happen in a very tiny space with just intentional materials.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have a very small space, only 12 children here, and it's just, if you see the Instagram, it's fully lit every day. We have a lot of light play going. And also I should add that we're also very aware of children's needs and processing and challenges they may have too. So you want to consider that when you're playing with light. For example, we don't have any sort of strobe lights or harsh flashing lights, things like that, because I do have children who have sensory processing challenges. And so those are things you need to know. You need to know your children really well and know what's appropriate and what's not. I can show photos in a minute too. That our atelier is often very softly lit. The overhead lights are off completely, and the room is lit with an overhead projection, something on the wall, whatever it might be, either coming from the overhead projector or from a Wi-Fi projector that we use. And then a light panel on the wall, and the light table. It's very soft. So I think that's really important too, to know your children well and their needs.
And that's, do you have, because I know that a lot of people will ask, I know that you have a materials matter course, but do you have like an Amazon list? I have an Amazon list on light play, but I'm not an expert, so I just collect ideas from others. Yesterday, I added your tiny little, what was the name for the nest?
Oh, these little lights?
Yes, I don't remember the name. Yes.
I don't even remember the name. Novelty Place or something.
You posted them, and I'm like, I'll just add them to my list. So they're in the list. But do you have an Amazon list with
I don't, and I need to, because people are constantly asking me. But when I started all of this, my goal was never to have anyone copy me. It was always just to offer inspiration. But people are like, no, I need that. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I understand. So I need to make a list. I would love to. I'm honestly often hesitant to share when I use these sorts of lights because of the batteries. So I want to make a point that people know that this specific light, I think it's Novelty Place. Novelty Place Nightlight, color changing lights. I think you can search Amazon and find that. This one though is screwed on. The cover is screwed on. A lot of them are not. They just pop right off. This is screwed on, and it has a switch. And even so, we keep them high on a shelf in my office, and we only pull them out when we are sitting with children. I think it's so important. And that's often a reason why I don't post these, because I don't want people just to think they can store them on their shelves and walk away, because it's very important to keep these.
And it's also something that you just mentioned, that you don't want people to copy you. And that's something very important, because at least for me, when I see your materials, they're an inspiration to offer the materials in a variety of ways to see what children can create based
Right.
on their specific needs. Because what we see in your Instagram or my Instagram will probably not be as successful in a specific environment, right? Because it all depends on what the children are doing, what their interests are, and how to meet their needs at that specific moment. So that's also very important that when it comes to play, our job is to facilitate all these materials and propose ideas,
Mm-hmm.
but children are the ones who do the magic. So you will never be able to have something like what you see on Suzanne's page or my page because children are unique and they will always create um, different things.
Absolutely. Your children are not my children. They're going to be very, very different.
Correct.
They're going to, yeah. And I think, and I don't mean to say like, don't copy
No, but I get your point.
but yeah,
I
but
get your point.
you know, I've seen Instagram posts where it's like the exact same thing that I posted. And I was like, oh, how interesting that those children did the exact same thing, you know? So
It's impossible.
I just love to encourage people to really, you know, take the materials, but see what children are going to do. Sit back and let it happen. And I should also add, a lot of this is not expensive. Things
And
like,
observe, Suzanne. Sometimes we just need to observe, and the play patterns will just take us to
yeah,
a different outcome.
I want to show a few things like for people who are looking to do this inexpensively. I get so many donations from my families. These are wine bottle, you know, protectors. So I have, no joke, probably 200 of these. So these are great for positioning play, for connecting play. We're planning to use them soon for shadow sculptures that our children are really interested in. So we're going to weave them together and put them outside and hang them and do this shadow sculpture thing. Things like this, a fruit basket. Again, I probably have 200, right? They're amazing for positioning play and for enclosure play and transporting play and even trajectory play or, you know, what. So think about how a material can be used in over many different schemas. I think it's so important. Sticks, cinnamon sticks and sticks, like this is cinnamon, right? All of this stuff is so inexpensive, and I've never replaced my cinnamon. I've had it in the school since I opened, but it's something that's always sought after. Children use it in their play.
And it's also something like a matter of having eyes for loose parts. That's what I say when you start, you never end. Like I have a container in my kitchen, and like I found that my husband is actually the best loose part seeker because he gives me like these random pieces that he's like, this is kind of cool. And I'm like, sure. And I was
Yeah.
gonna throw it away because like you start creating this site for things that can be used in a different way that it's a matter of collecting treasures that can be used in different ways. And then when it comes to light, we are looking for textures and things that can have great shades and um, reflection and
Yeah.
cool patterns, right?
Like a Mylar blanket, right? Used over and over again. I think it's $10, right? Or less. You can get it if you're a runner, you just pick one up after the run and you you have it. Things like this, reflection. Yeah. And also, you know, our light materials are not specifically for light, to be really honest with you. Like we have some materials will live in the atelier for a while and then they'll come out into the main classroom and they'll be used without light, or some materials that aren't even translucent will venture into the light table but have an interesting perspective for the children to teach the children. So yeah, I think when I think about light and I think about why we play with light, it's really about offering new perspectives. That's what it's about. Things look different in light, right? It's about igniting curiosity and calling children into just a different world. This is not something they're used to seeing. And even when they are used to seeing it, like the children who've been here 2 years straight at Mulberry House, every day is new and different because they're interacting with different people and different materials and different light sources and different colors and all of this. And it teaches new perspectives, right? My perspective is not the only one. Oh, look how you're looking at that. How interesting. What are you going to do with that? Right. So all of this, you know, opens that world for children. And I think that's really important because another thing, I think you can stop me at any time. I know I'm talking a lot, but I know another important part of light is that light doesn't work alone,
Mhm.
right? Light is not a standalone thing. If we just have a room full of light and nothing in it, what do, right? Well, you could say you do shadow play, but then shadow play has you and the wall, right? Those are other things. So light needs to be in relationship, just as
Mhm.
children and we need to be in relationship as people, as humans, right? So I think that's another beautiful thing about light, that it's always working in relationship. It's whether it be the children's ideas change and give new perspectives, and that relationship changes, the relationship to the materials, to one another. It's just always evolving, and it's always fresh and exciting. And I think that's important also for educators too, because
Mhm.
educators can really get stuck in a rut, and parents, right? You can get really burnt out and exhausted. And this kind of work with the light, it's always new, it's always fresh, and we're always trying to invent and think of new ideas. So it's really exciting.
I'm having someone asking about the play schema freebie.
Mm.
I'll share all the links once Suzanne starts presenting. I'll share all the links in the chat and on the screen, so you'll be able to see all the information. And that freebie is an old freebie of mine. It's not available right now, but I will be very happy to send you the link if you want it, because I think it's powerful. If you know about play schemas, the world of play opens ahead of you. And
Mhm.
also, Suzanne, what do you think about? Because for me, at least, one of the steps that I had to do to start playing with light was play with light, like
Yeah.
actually experiment with light and play with light myself. Like as I was, because I visited Paola's school, Kinderu, because if you have not heard about her, she's amazing and she does amazing stuff too. But she does only light. So of course, after going to Paola's school, I'm like, how do I start? And she's like, flashlights. Like, so I started playing and I started playing with these textures and I offered different things. And then little by little, I got some light pads. And again, I have a small garage and I have a multi-age group. So I have to rotate. Light is not always part of our days because I have elementary children now. So light comes out to play sometimes over the summer. My garage will turn into a play space for my younger children. So I will have a permanent space for light. So it depends also on the age and how do you want to interact with light. Um, can you talk a little bit more of what happens at the play school with light?
Yeah, I mean, we just try about everything. And you're right, it's all about trying and seeing what's going to happen. So, like I said, most of our light play happens in the atelier where we have our light table. And, to speak to your small space and to kind of starting out of nothing, my first light table that I made was made out of a diaper changing tray that someone donated to the school. And I'll show you a picture of that in a moment, too. And I just lined it with LED lights and had a piece of acrylic custom cut for the top. um, Took it on the subway home from Chinatown, and there it was. So that was it. So a lot happens there. That one's on the floor, so children can really be on the floor. I really believe in little ones being down low and using their bodies. So a lot of play happens there. We have a light panel. Can I show some photos? This might
Yes,
help
go ahead.
to
Go
kind of
ahead.
show it in action, and I think that might help. Let's try this. Okay.
Let me see. You have to hit present and then I'll add it. There we go.
Okay, got it.
There we go.
Whoops, name before sharing. Light. I guess. Are you seeing it?
Yes, but don't
Oh,
worry.
oh, it's telling me I have to name it. Okay, interesting. Hmm. Sorry, I'm not. I'm stuck. One sec.
Don't worry.
Hmm.
And when I was looking for pictures of my light play experiences, I couldn't find much, and I'm like, I am not playing enough with light. Light has to come out more often. And even like my 10-year-olds, because I have in the garage, I have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10-year-olds, and they love to play with light.
Oh wow, it's amazing. I hold on one sec. I'm so sorry that this is
Don't
not
worry.
working. We just tried it a minute ago, and is the screen share still happening?
No,
No. Okay. Sorry.
just hit present, and I'll add it to the stage again.
Okay. Let's see if we can find it here. Huh, I might have to just talk. Let's see.
Now I'm gonna use this time while you figure it out to share all the
Yeah. Go ahead.
links.
Okay.
So
Do
I'm
that.
gonna start sharing Suzanne's Instagram, so you can have it here. And that's her Instagram, and I'm gonna add it also in the chat. And I'm gonna share some of you were also wondering about my Instagram because you probably saw me through the Mulberry House preschool. Let me look for that one. Right.
Okay. We're gonna see. I'll see if you can see that. You see that?
Yes. Yes. It's loading.
All right.
Okay.
There we go.
All right.
Yeah. You got that? Okay.
Yes.
All right, there we go. Okay, sorry about that. That took a second, way too long. Okay, so this is that light table that I made out of that diaper changing tray. So this is kind of what it looks like. I may just put out those. So for example, right here, we have a provocation with just these plastic black pieces that I got at the materials center. I have no idea what they are. I think they are for film developing possibly. So again, this place just has a lot of plastics, like things like this, right, that you can just take and use. And so when I looked at this, I thought, oh, that's interesting. That's a lot of like one-to-one correspondence stuff going on there. There could be some math, patterning, balance, symmetry, that sort of thing with these materials. So, and also play, enclosure, right, putting things inside of the rectangles. And so I just put out these materials, and this is kind of what started happening, right? It wasn't really on my agenda. I didn't get that one-to-one correspondence exactly like I wanted. I had to just kind of sit back and let things unfold. And so this is what happened. So also that tray in the middle, I think it's important to consider how you're presenting things, and the translucent or completely transparent containers like this one. This came from like a Home Goods or a Marshalls, something like that. I don't know what it's for, but you can go on Amazon, you can go to any of those stores and just kind of poke around and find clear containers and trays, and they're wonderful for the light table for containing materials.
I'm going to share something right now that you're saying this, because I found the best containers and I'm obsessed and I'm changing everything because I need to have everything in those containers. So if you go to Target, under the bath section, they have these really small like kind of boxes that you can stack, so you can actually store the materials stacked over each other, and just grab the container and put it over the table or wherever you want. I'm gonna find the link and share them here because they have been the best purchase, and they're like $3.
Nice. Yes, those little gems that's what makes it so exciting. We find these great little things. But you'll notice on the right then too how this is kind of the main wall in the atelier, the projection wall. So the children have access to the overhead projector, which is on the opposite side of the room, and they're able to move these things around, take them from the projector, take it to the light table, play with it on the carpet, wherever they feel like they want to explore these materials. Our children are very big into lines lately, intersecting lines and creating lines. So they might even choose to take these materials and start them at the back of the wall and make them into a line them up all the way to the front of the classroom, right? So it's really open-ended, and kind of we're following their lead there. But you'll see also I have some storage on that back wall, and that's rotating storage. So that's children accessible storage where they can go take things out as they feel motivated to do so. And then we have more storage in the closets, of course. And then on that wall there's a light panel that I made with rope lighting. I just mounted some rope lighting to the wall, and then I mounted these 2 galvanized steel pegboards that belong in a garage or somewhere to the wall, because I wanted a magnetic surface and something where the light could shine through. And then to that, I zip tied a flexible PVC hose. Maybe tricky to see in
Mhm.
that photo, but uh,
Mhm.
they shoot balls through it. So again, trajectory play, right? How do we get
Mhm.
things in motion? Especially for 2-year-olds, they're really interested in that repetitive play. So that was a great one for that. And I realized that my 2-year-olds needed a lot more vertical work, and they needed to be reaching up a lot more. So light kind of helped us with that, right? It's an attractive thing. They're drawn to the light, and I mounted it a few inches too high, so they have to really get up on their tippy toes and reach for that hose and to get the balls in. So it's served a lot of great purposes for us. Let me move on to
They're asking Suzanne, what kind of projector do you
kind
have?
of projector. Okay, yeah. So the overhead projector is an old school legit overhead projector. Doesn't even have a
Mhm.
brand name on it. I don't even know. We found it outside on the street in Brooklyn outside of a public high school. There were like 8 of them. And now in hindsight, I wish I would have taken more than one, but there were 8 of them, and the cords were all cut. So I brought one home, and my husband helped me rewired it for me. And so that's what I use. And I find the clarity is so much better than the newer ones you can buy, because I have a newer one as well, and I rarely use it. I use it in the main classroom actually, but yeah, so it's an old one. Sorry, go on eBay. I would say find a really
This is how I found mine, because I have an old school one.
okay.
I went into Facebook and I posted in my neighborhood in every single Facebook group, and also in the marketplace, that I was looking for the projector, and I found one. So
Amazing. Yeah, there you go. Do that. Yeah, I think if you put the word out there that you need things, that's actually how I kind of furnished the entire school. I started, 3 years before I even opened, I had this idea, and I was like, I'm going to need stuff. And, then a preschool in Brooklyn closed after 33 years, and they called me, and I went with a U-Haul truck and just loaded up. And my poor husband was just like, I filled up the whole basement. So that, yeah, put the word out to people. People are always bringing me donations. I find bags under my stoop out front just left for me with little treasures and wood floor samples and tiles and all of these wonderful things. So definitely get connected to your community and put the word out there that you need this stuff. Let's see if I can find the next slide here. Okay, so again, this is that same light table here. The child on the left here is actually my daughter. When she was finishing her time here at Mulberry House, she's using CD cases.
mhm,
Who knew, right? That's what she's using to build with. And that's tricky. I don't know if you've ever tried
mhm.
building with CD cases. They topple, they fold, they're fragile, they're brittle, yeah, it's tricky. So there's a lot of skill involved in that. And then on the right here, we have children with magnetiles. Magnetiles are used daily at Mulberry House in all different areas. And here they are on the light table. So they're fantastic for play. We use that same light table for a lot of sensory play. And of course, all light play is sensory play, but here I'm talking more about like tactile, sensory. Right here is just a Rubbermaid food prep bin,
Mhm,
storage bin
mhm,
for restaurants. And I love
mhm,
it because it's crystal clear.
mhm,
And I put some, you can put those rubber pads on the bottom so it won't slip on the light table. And here it's just simply little ramekins filled with vinegar. And then I covered some little drops of food coloring with mounds of baking soda. And this is kind of what's happening. They're just experimenting and playing. And as they're doing this, they're chatting and they're talking about the birthday party last weekend, and they're having their connection time and their social time. And I'm asking a few questions here or there to keep things moving, or to challenge the learning. So light is really such a beautiful thing. And here you can see it's it gives a very calming effect, right? They were so calm and happy just to be together and to explore. So yeah, that's the sensory play. I think I have some more sensory here. Yeah. So here's
I'm sorry to interrupt. I've done the tray also over my light pads, because
uh-huh.
light pads for me are very easy to use, because I have a very small space too, so I can put them in and out and play with them.
Yeah.
And I've used the tray on the light pads, and it works light tables are even better, but the light pads are a great resource for small spaces, and they work really well.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. I think whatever you can get your hands on, just get the light in there and get them exploring. It's so great. This here on the left is just black sand. In the beginning of the year, we do a lot of contrast work. So I put out a lot of white, black, reflective materials.
Mhm.
And so this is just painting in with paintbrushes in black sand over light and watching the trails or the roads, as they called it, unfold. And let's see. And then over on the right, they're using barley that was expired from my husband's home brewing project. So I always, if I use food, it's always expired. So I get donations from people's spice cabinets or pantries, and I always ask that they donate
So
expired food.
smart.
And I use it forever. Like we just keep it. We put it in a
Mhm.
Ziploc bag, we put it away, and we pull it out again. So this was barley they were using. But again, you can look at the whole picture and kind of see how the projection really sets the tone and
Mhm.
calms the light. It's not just a white wall we're looking at. And this was just printed on transparency paper. So I use a lot of transparency paper that I just print images on my inkjet printer. This is
Mhm.
the one I'm holding right now. I don't know if you can see this at all, but it's a picture,
Mhm.
an actual photograph of a tree outside of our house in the wintertime. And that was
Mhm.
interesting because we were observing the shadows outside, and then we put it on the projector, and the children had it to explore in the atelier as well. So I think all of the lights together work in relationship beautifully, and that's really important that you can combine as many as possible. Um,
Mhm. They're
again, more.
asking Suzanne if the overhead projector get very hot.
Um, they can. I've known that they can. Mine does not. For some reason, I'm very lucky. We also have it back. We use a big train table for our main atelier table for all the process art, and it's on the very back of that table. Um, so I think if there were heat, it would kind of be coming out the back, which I've never really noticed. And the children don't have access to that part of it.
Mhm.
They have access to the top, which is never overheated.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, we're lucky with ours. And I've known that they can, though, some of the older models. And I also know that if you flip the switch around too much, the light bulbs can burn quite quickly. So
Mhm.
I took little child-proofing, I don't know, like cabinet clasps, like locks, and I put a cutting board on the front to cover the switch, and then I locked those onto the sides with that so that the children, they don't turn it on and off because it will blow a bulb quite a bit. So
That's so smart. You're
yes.
very resourceful.
I do that. I control the power on that one. But they do
Yeah.
have remote controls to control the light table. So they're allowed to use that, and invited really is the word, invited to use the remote controls, change the color, put on a fading effect,
Mhm.
dim the light table. So here also we were exploring fruit. They were interested in seeds. There was a lot of conversation about seeds on the strawberries at lunch once. And so we pulled out a bunch of fruit, cut it open, and put it on the light table. And then the entire board was consumed at snack time. But again, using the light table to examine. Here we have children working with yarn cones, which
Mhm.
were donated from a rug tufting studio in Brooklyn. You can find these also on eBay. We have a set from Lithuania, actually, that I got on eBay. They are perforated, so that's also a new element for the light, to see the light come
Mhm.
through the holes on the yarn cones. The ones in the photo here are not perforated, of course. Those are all solid. And they're just using stones and different things in positioning play. And again, talking about life, right? Having their conversations and
All right.
playing.
If
So
I have people here watching from Costa Rica, I'm originally from Costa Rica, but I live in Florida, so I didn't say that at the beginning. I'm sorry, I didn't even introduce myself. And so if I have people from Costa Rica watching, there's a place called Recrea en el Parque La Libertad, which is also like center for repurposed materials, and they have these cones, and it's free. You just go and grab your things, and what they're willing is to promote play with all these objects. So that's a good one. And you can find locally, because I know that here in Florida, in Melbourne, I live in Orlando, and I know that in Melbourne, there's another center. So you might be able to find these different centers in your city or close to your city, where you will find lots of treasures. I've also found great resources at Goodwill and thrift shops, and
mhm.
it's a matter of just having the eye.
Yeah,
to
you have to
find.
hunt for it, really. Yeah, it's out there. You gotta just find it and collect it and see what the children will do. Over on the right, again, more like plastic tangram pieces, like just different shapes. And then I took the pieces from the board game called Blockus, Blokus, I
Hmm.
believe it is.
Hmm.
And they're kind of like
Hmm.
Tetris pieces, and the children love those. You can see in the center of that photo, playing with those. Now, this is a new light table that I made recently. If you've followed on Instagram, you may have
I
seen this.
know,
Yeah.
but you're very talented. You're extremely creative, Suzanne. No one comes with these up with these ideas.
I really wanted something. I was really pleased with the floor level. And, in Reggio Emilia, children work on a lot of different levels and heights, like, platforms and different things. And I think that changes our perspective, the way we see things and the way we see other people working with materials. So I wanted something also that was a little bit higher that they could either kneel at or stand at. So this was a lift top coffee table, and I just assembled it without attaching the top so that, it has the opening because you lift the top in order to store things inside, right? So I needed a place for my lights to be. So I just, again, lined it with the LED strip lights, and then I had a piece of this acrylic cut at actually my local plastics place this time. I met some new people. I didn't have to go to Chinatown. And so this has been really fun. And now I have this idea. I might want to make a second one eventually to have a big long strip, since I have the space for it, to see what that might be like for the children. But I'll take my time.
Yeah, and
Figure
this is great because I got a light table, like a hand-me-down table, and it's bulky and it's big, and I mean I
out.
love it. The kids love it, but it takes a lot of space.
Yeah,
And in these surfaces, I mean, you can do whatever you want. They can kneel, they can paint, they can do whatever they want.
yeah, yeah. I love these smaller coffee table size. Yeah, they're really, really great. And again, you look here and you notice a lot of these materials are found materials from nature: shells, honeybee hives, nests, pieces of bark, deer antlers, all these things. And then we pair it there, you can see on the left, with a digital microscope. That's the one screen we do use. And it's a screen so that all the children can look together as they explore things under the microscope. So that's
Mhm.
really an exciting thing. But then again, on the wall, that's another printout that I printed on
Mhm.
transparency paper
Mhm.
um, with my printer. Okay, so here's another way that we use light. We have a light table that we often bring into the main classroom as well. This is from a company called Kodo Kids. If you're
Mhm.
not familiar, get familiar and save your
Yes,
pennies. It's an
it's a
investment.
problem. It's
Yeah.
a problem. You don't want to get too familiarized. And some of you were asking for the rods for the like that those cylinders. I believe those are Kodo too, right?
For which ones?
The cylinders that you were showing at the beginning, like
Um,
some.
you mean where they put the tubes through?
No. Were like some. I think those are the pegs from Kodo. I'm not sure if you got them from them
Oh, no,
or
I've only have. Oh, you're talking about these,
the
aren't you?
rods, like the
These ones.
rods. Yes.
No, these came from that plastic store in Chinatown on Canal Street. While I was waiting for my plastic to be cut for that first light table, I saw these and saw a whole collection of them and thought, oh, I need to invest in those. No, this light table pictured here is actually my only purchase from Kodo Kids, because I am frugal. But this is a beautiful investment because it's a shelf top light table, so they see
It's
it at things.
slanted.
Yeah, very new perspectives. You can also lie it down flat. Um, but I made these little resin, you can see there, resin
She
ice
made them. She
blocks.
made them. She
I,
made them.
I made them and I will never make them again. Just I want to make sure that's very clear. It was way too much work. I thought I was going to die because I didn't have a proper gas mask. Like, you need a legit mask for this. Resin is no joke. It is dangerous. I do not recommend it. It's also not friendly to the earth. So these will be with me in my will beyond my death. And, so think about it before you work with resin. Seriously, not for children to work with. But yeah, so those come out periodically, but they're really great for I Spy games. We talk about what we see in there. I give clues about what might be hiding in the blocks, and those are beautiful on the light table. And I just love this one from Kodo Kids too, because it's a little bit extra bright. So I put out a basket of sunglasses for this one, and the children love it. They love coming over.
And on their behalf, I have to say that the Kodos. Do you know the story behind them?
No.
So I met them at, I believe, NACY 2 years ago, and the owner started his own business, very small business, but he was the one. He's an engineer, and he started building everything and designing all the things that you see are designed by him and tested with his children. And like it's a company that like really invests into things that are created with love and passion and purpose. So I really love the story behind Kodo Kids, and they have amazing products, and they have all the also these pegs and like a peg wall. It's everything is
Yeah,
beautiful, but the story behind that company is lovely, and they started from zero, and he's grown his business a lot, and so I always speak up to him.
amazing. Yeah, and such high quality products too. So you can tell they
Yes.
care. Yeah, I guess I'll kind of. We have just a few minutes left, right? So let me kind of
Mhm.
push through here. Just this is just showing you another option. If you have the IKEA sensory table, this light table insert I purchased from a company called Button and Bug on
Mhm.
Etsy. Um,
Mhm.
and that's just if you have a small space, that's a great way to start. And I just put battery operated twinkle lights inside. And so that's what's lighting that up. So again, you can start super, super small. And this picture here, these pictures kind of show how things kind of work all together in relationship, right? And how it's not just one light source, but many. So the planet or the moon there casting itself across the earth, this was on, or across the sky, this was on the eclipse day where we kept the children inside because they were too young to understand not to look up, right? And so we had our own eclipse party indoors, and that was actually projected with a Wi-Fi projector. I do
Mhm.
not recommend my brand. However, I don't know if it's my Wi-Fi issue getting all the way to the back room or if it's the actual projector, but the Wi-Fi projector I use is Poyank, I think is how you spell it. Poyank, Poyank, maybe? I don't know. That's a Wi-Fi projector. I project things from YouTube directly from my phone and just AirPlay it. And yeah, so it kind of shows you how things kind of work in relationship and how this whole room is just transformed
Mhm.
with these things. Let's see, I'll kind of buzz through a few things. There they are again playing at the light panel, which also serves a lot of dramatic play purposes. So here they're in a rocket ship, and those shoestrings, which were donated to the school, are all, that's the fire on the back of the rocket ship. And here you can see on the right another view of our atelier where you can see the overhead projector back on that table and the Wi-Fi projector up above it and how it's softly lit. There's a desk lamp shooting down from that shelf onto that bigger table, so the children's work is really lit. Um, Again, a lot of positioning play here, like you can see on the left with these little dome lights and different materials, and they're all just kind of collaborating and working together. There's a nice buzz in the room, a nice hum to their play, and we stop from time to time to talk about what's happening, and sometimes teachers don't intervene, right? We just kind of let things happen and we observe and we let them have their play. On the right here, they're working on some art, some process art, and again, that backdrop. These are on the same day. These two pictures in the same room at the same time. So that's kind of what's happening. There's
I have a question for you. How often do you rotate and change materials?
if there's no set schedule or anything. It's not. I mean, I could go 3 months with the same with some of the same materials out, and then I could, one day just be like, oh, I think this play needs this, and I might go grab something, right? So it's all based on their interest, and even if somebody's looking tired or bored with something, I will still keep it out. There was a story when I was in Reggio Emilia about how they kept a block of clay out on a table for months before children would even touch it. They had no interest and they just kept putting it out every morning. And then one day suddenly everyone wanted to have part in it. So I like to leave things out and just to kind of see what'll happen and how they'll use them. So there's really no set rotation. I would say probably in the classroom or in the atelier, new things come out every couple of days. And by new, I mean, we're rotating. It's not like I'm
Yeah.
buying new all the time, right? I'm getting them out of the closet. But also I could go a few weeks where we're just kind of filtering through what we already have out on our shelves and just all based on their interests. Um,
Mm.
this is some interesting stuff. If you want to go on mulberrymethods.com and look into my virtual tour on our atelier, you can learn about our aerial sculpting and how light is used in aerial sculpting. A lot of shadow work, a lot of motion. We ended up mounting a lamp for this sculpture, which was ever changing. The children went back to it every day and added and removed things. We added a fan, so there was movement. We added music, so that as it moved, it would kind of move with the music. It was really a fascinating experience. And we try to bring this back every spring when the children are kind of old enough to handle these materials and understand how to use them. And then on the right, we have an acrylic easel. This is the brand Jonti Craft, I believe, Jonti Craft.
You can find them on Amazon, I believe.
Yeah, this is from Amazon, and it's great. I love this thing, and we have a few easels, and we keep them kind of all stacked in the corner, and we just pull this one out when we need it. And this is really great for connection because you can have children on either side, and dancing with the light and painting one another's faces, and just a lot of great connection happens with this one. This is light outside of the atelier. So this is in the main classroom and shows you how we have dimmed the overhead lights to make these dome lights kind of glow a bit more. The children had created this garden. They called it their city garden. And it was filled with little birds, little plastic toy birds. And then they needed some light because it was turning nighttime in the garden. And, many of the birds, I think, actually went away. There's a few out there still, but many of them went away to sleep. And then the lights came out to light the garden. So there was a whole story behind this. So light, also has this ability to really impact dramatic play and the child's imagination. On the right here, we have some ice that I froze and pulled out, and I put out jars of liquid watercolor and pipettes. And this is not lit from underneath. This is lit with one of those IKEA dusk lamps from above. So again, new perspectives, new experiences, new relationship with materials and with peers is the goal here. This just shows some of the examples of materials with natural light. Natural light is really important. Don't forget about that. Like, use your natural light when you can. It's beautiful. And then kind of a photo of the classroom just showing how light in the classroom, the overhead, the lamps, everything kind of works together. I don't know if you can even see there, but way in the back right corner of that picture on the left where that little boy is, that's the kitchen area, and there's a lamp in there. There's a lamp by the axolotl aquarium. There's a rope light on the green grass. There's a lot going on in terms of light. There's some little twinkle lights hanging from a chandelier there. And then on the right, this was actually from today. This is the one I told you about where the child was putting Play-Doh all over the Vava lamp. So materials are so important, and light just enhances that exploration and that beauty and I think that ingenuity that children naturally have, and their wish and their will to create and be creative and be in an environment where their work is valued. And that's kind of what we go for here. So I think do I have any more? Oh, this is also from today. I have a new book. I didn't tell you that, but I have a little new book. I think you know about my little ABC book. I don't even have it here. Shame on me, but it's on my Yeah, and we were using it today as inspiration to build letters. And when we built the letter M, the children said we need to light it up. And so then again, these lights were used. And then on the right here, just the atelier, some hanging things. We love to hang things and have reflection and a lot of light in there as well. So I think that is kind of all I have now. So I have a little info for you here that you could go visit Mulberry Methods. We have what we call tours and talks, which are these longer events that originally started as global professional development events where we'd all come together and I'd give this hour presentation and then we'd have an hour Q&A. And now they're pre-recorded. And then at one point during the year, I will host these as live events again to refresh the Q&A and to give people an opportunity to chat with me a bit about what we do here. But those tours and talks, we have one on the main classroom, one on the atelier, and one on the outdoor space. So people can go and watch those. They're all there. And then we also have one called Becoming Reggio Inspired. So if you'd like to know more about what it means to be Reggio Inspired, and we're very much inspired, right? No one is Reggio unless you are in the municipality of Reggio Emilia. You have to make it your own. And I had to do that because when you're in Reggio Emilia, they don't talk a lot about 2- and 3-year-olds. It's about 4-, 5-, 6-year-olds and representational arts and the clay and all of that. So you really have to find what works for you and your group. But you can find that there under tours and talks. And then we have these shorter courses called intensive. So we have them on process art, on light. We have one on light if you need more information, one on circle time magic. I think there's the top 20 materials in the main classroom and a few others perhaps. But you can get any of these for 30% off because you're watching this, but it does expire June 1st. So it's helpful if you're watching this now or very soon. And there's
And just so you know, I bought them all the last time that you did a sale for something, and I bought them all, and I was telling Suzanne because I need more time to watch them. Um, but these, I find, Suzanne, that what you're doing is simply amazing because, and I love the name that you chose for your methods because it's a method that you've created, and as we talked, no one's going to be able to replicate your method, but you're being inspiration for us to create our own methods and our own recipes and our own flavors. So I think that sharing your work is a sign of courage because you are sharing high quality education with people around the world, parents and educators, and this is what we need to actually cherish childhood and to send the message to the world that children need to play and that their first years are for learning through play because they're not just play, they're learning through all these valuable experiences. And we need to see more of these in the classroom. Also, seeing all these amazing resources that you've created, you're extremely creative, and um, all the things that you come up with are just pure inspiration. What you've done is remarkable, and I know that
Yeah.
people say the same thing. At least I've spread my word in Costa Rica. Now a lot of people know you from Costa Rica, so I'm like very happy to have more population informed in what you do because what you're doing is just gold. You have your own flavor, your own magic, and sharing it is just a sign of inspiration for all of us. I can attest to that. I have a few questions here from people. They are asking about friendly rope light, and maybe that's like an LED.
The rope light. Well, we have a rope light that we often use on our grass, on our green grass, which is just, they're cylindrical rope lights. If they're asking about the strip lights, those are more like little plastic strips where the lights kind of sit on top and they're adhesive, and that's what I put in my light table. But the rope
And that has
lights,
a remote, right? Those
yeah,
have
that's. Mhm. You can get rope lights with a remote as well. And the rope lights we plug in, and we have like a protective box over our outlet so that children can't have access to the outlet, but they're able to move the rope light around. We use it with larger objects for like lacing, even like the rope light goes inside of the tubes, and they're really neat for play. But those can be found on Amazon. I usually order a 16-foot rope light, and they're like probably $15-16, but you have to be prepared that every 2 years or so they're going to be needing to be replaced because children will like bend them and they'll short out. But yeah.
And you have an amazing place in New York, and especially in a city like New York City, that's like the best place to be for children. So I really admire what you're doing, and the joy that you put into what you're doing is something that we can see from afar, which is remarkable. Suzanne also I just added the link to her book because I don't know, when do you have time to do all of this? And I say the same thing. I'm always creating, but she just launched a book that it's just gorgeous, an ABC book.
Well, I have to say, I have to be
on
really honest.
Amazon.
The book was actually a tester book for the Kindle publishing market because I wrote another book about the atelier, which I'm hoping to release sometime, but I'm trying to figure out if I should self-publish or how to sell it. So I made this ABC book as a project to just kind of test the market, and then it got way out of hand and it became a bigger project than it was supposed to be. But yeah, so it's called Letters.
And I think that sharing what we do is very important because we have all these spaces, and that's the main reason why I created the play talks. I'm doing them in both in English and in Spanish, alternating, because I feel like high quality education needs to be accessible to everyone.
Mhm.
And with these little golden nuggets, we're contributing to sharing our knowledge in smaller portions. But it's also very valid to promote what we do and to share all the amazing resources that we've created as educators, and most importantly, to promote each other's work. So I'm just gonna buy your book as soon as we finish this talk, because
Yeah.
if we want more of this content to continue happening, the same thing happens to me with my Play Lab, which is my membership with, in which I share all the activities that I create in the Learning Garage. Because all of a sudden I found myself with my phone filled with amazing resources, and I'm like, I have to spread the word. Like, I've been teaching through play for a multi-age group for 4 years. I have enough content that I can share, and it's about valuing also what we do, and that's also very important. And supporting people who are really passionate for um, a good purpose in education.
Yeah, I'd also love to say that I'm actually licensed as a group family daycare. I don't know if people realize that because I'm so small. And so one of my missions from the very beginning was to make sure I could support children of our community, all different types of children. So when you are purchasing from Mulberry Methods, you are helping to support that scholarship fund too. So we bring children into Mulberry House on scholarship where they don't pay a thing. We try to do a few children every school year, and then in the summer bring back a lot of our campers from previous summers on substantial scholarship. So that's an important piece of this story as well.
And this is the project that's keeping you alive, because it just brings too much joy to work um, in such a slow paced rhythm, and just to be able to watch um, children grow. And that's what I'm seeing with my kids. Like, I'm not sending them to school anytime soon. Alberto's 4, Max is 3, and like, and it's even hard for me to just accept the fact that no, I'm keeping them home, and I want more of this for them than uh, going through books when they're 4 and 5. So it's a personal decision, but I value play too much. All right. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you to all of those um, you who are watching and who will be watching later on. I'll be sending, and probably the email already sent because it was scheduled,
Okay.
with the discount code and all the information that we um, Play Lab information as well. And hopefully you will be able to share this content. And if you create with light, we would love to know and hear about it. So thank you very much to all of you here. And they say thank you from Bermuda, and from Harlem, Toronto, Canada. Awesome.
Also,
Thank
Maria,
you
you should
for
know
being
I
here.
went to Costa Rica last summer. Do you remember that? You gave me some tips. Yeah.
Yes,
So Costa Rica.
that's so. Did you enjoy your trip?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
It is beautiful. Costa Rica is a beautiful country.
Yes.
So thank you so much to all of you. Thank you for being here and supporting these learning spaces and opportunities.
And thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed being part of this. Thanks.